or collection, and I'm in a video. We talked about this. Oh my god, hey! I've been on break. I've been playing a ton of Destiny. If anyone's played like the latest Destiny, I'm very sad with how it started. I love Cade. He was like one of the people who always made me laugh, and now he's gone and he's murdered. If I'm not doing that, then I've just been cleaning and trying to catch up on like stuff. So mainly I'm trying to get everything back to kind of the order that it was before I did my fashion collection, which if you haven't seen that, it's totally done. It took a while to get it like out because I had some issues. If you want to see my summer collection, if you want to read the story behind the summer collection, it's a fictional tale. It's about a detective who encounters some weird mansion and some weird things are happening and people are disappearing. And so there's like a fashion and there's also story time, so it's kind of something for everybody. Also, I'm gonna be in a fashion show. It's taking place in Austin. If you live around the Austin area or even Dallas, it's not until November, so we're still kind of in the early stages. It's for a great cause. It kind of brings awareness to domestic violence. So if you want to find out more information about that, I will leave all the information in my little information box. Somebody asked me some questions about some of the items that I use, and I just haven't had the time or enough pieces to really get a video to do all of this. So finally, I think I have a good amount of things that I want to share. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So without starting in any certain order, the first thing I want to talk about is this thing. If you're like a paper person, you might know what this is. It's basically a gigantic freaking hole punch. And I use this to punch holes in my patterns. So if you're a special like design person, you probably don't use this. You probably use something called a rabbit. And a rabbit is basically a super heavy, gigantic hole punch. I'm not kidding, it's like, I don't know, it's like this tall and it weighs like 1,000,000 pounds. I had to use it in like design school and I absolutely hated it. Someone would always leave it like in the center of the table, and so me being super skinny, no muscle whatsoever, I tried to pick it up and I could never move it really. I would have to kind of like drag it to the other side of the table. So when you see those gigantic holes on my patterns, it's basically just this. And it's so that I can put my pattern hook, which I talked about in a supplies video, like I feel like it was years ago, but it's to put that little hook inside of your pattern. That way you can conveniently like store it in your closet if that's where you put yours. I'm in a studio room, so that's where I put mine. And it really helps with filing everything away and keeping all of your patterns together. So another thing that I've really been loving, and I've had for a while, I've tried to keep all the papers together for it, is a tracing kit. And I picked this up because I remember specifically that my design teachers, they told us about tracing paper and all the great uses of it. And I totally thought that was a bunch of trash, I wasn't gonna need it, and it was useless information to me. However, I found this, and it's probably the handiest thing I have ever picked up. The kit contains 3 different sheets of paper. There's a yellow one, there's a blue one, and there's a white one. And it also comes with a little tracing wheel. Now, I did speak about a tracing wheel back in my supplies video, like I mentioned earlier. However, you'll notice a huge difference. So the super scary one is a pattern tracer. And the reason that it has the super medieval looking torture device spikes is because it needs to go through layers of paper. And then on the flip side, the super friendly one is a tracing wheel, more for fabrics and delicate stuff. And so that's why it's a little bit smoother so that it doesn't damage fabrics. So now that you know like the difference between those tools, what this kit does is it traces darts or any kind of markings from pattern pieces to your fabrics. You'll pick out whichever tracing sheet that will contrast with your fabric piece that you're using. I'm using muslin right here for an example, and I'm going to be using the blue tracing paper. So what you're going to do is take the chalky side and have it facing down on your fabric. Now you want to place your pattern piece on top of that, and then taking your tracing wheel, you're going to trace whatever markings you're trying to get. In this case, I'm going to be tracing out my little fly area. And now you'll go ahead and remove your pattern and your tracing paper. And you can see the little chalk lines from my blue tracing paper are traced out on my fabric piece. And I totally regret ignoring my instructors about tracing paper, because I could just tell you how many times this would have saved my life and made things like a whole freaking ton better. It would have been nice. All right, so next on the list is paper. Now, I don't use the paper that has like the little blue lines and stuff on it. I had one of the instances where I was trying to make something, I don't remember what it was, but the lines on the pattern paper were not straight, like it wasn't equal. It totally like scarred me for life, and because like I was trying to, you know, get everything like nice and straight and measured out, and then like the pattern paper just wasn't made straight, and it was just driving me nuts. So since then, I've just been against grid paper, so I've been using brown paper, which I kind of like this a little bit more just because it's a little bit more sturdier and it doesn't like fall apart. And I don't use like a special brand or anything. It's just like the craft paper that you get at like, I don't know, I think I got this at like Walmart or something. But it's really nice to work with this. I like transferring my manufactured, you know, store-bought patterns to paper patterns. That way they can last longer. I can get the size that I want without ruining the other pattern, and it's just nicer to work with. So my next item that I want to share are, I feel like it kind of sounds dumb. It's a hanger. So particularly these hangers, I got these from IKEA, but you can get them like pretty much anywhere. So I want to say these are for like trousers or something like that. But what I use this for is to hang up like my delicate fabrics, such as my lace, any kind of applique fabrics that I want to keep nice and not just like crumpled up and stuffed in a drawer or some other box. So I'm not sure if you can see that or not, but trust me, it has some felt right here on both sides so that whenever it does clasp onto your pants, or in this case my fabrics, it doesn't damage anything and it's pretty soft on it. So that's also what I really like about these. So kind of playing on with that whole pattern hole punch thing and the pattern hooks, something that you might also want to think about getting is one of these. And this is a pattern chart. Usually this will be filled in, but this is just like an empty one. I really like this because it helps me to keep my pattern pieces in order, because you know when you have them just kind of on that pattern hook and just like stuffed in wherever storage room you got them stuffed, it's kind of hard to figure out like what's what, because you know it could just say, oh, this is a shirt. But what shirt? Like there's a million different things, you know? So anyway, so what I like to do is to have this right on top of my pattern pieces on my hook. So that way, you know, when I'm flipping through them, I know exactly what it is. I know exactly the pieces that are in it, and I can go from there. So this is super helpful for keeping your pattern pieces nice and organized. Oh my God, I'm so hungry. It's really random. Sometimes like I get hungry and then the hunger kind of just disappears. I'm hoping that's gonna happen soon, but it hasn't. Okay, so next up is this. Probably the most random thing, but light bulbs are your friend. So this particular one is extremely bright. So now the reason for bringing up this light bulb is because I know you've probably seen it at like Joann's or whatever craft stores you go to. I'm sure almost all of them have it, but it's those super like fancy schmancy lights that are like 60 bucks, and they're like, this is for crafters, get this light, you know, but they're like super expensive. There's even some of them that are like over $100. So I don't use like a fancy lamp. I call it like an elbow lamp, and that's because it moves everywhere. I can move it up, down, to the side. I can, you know, move it far, I can move it close. And I actually screwed mine into the table because I didn't want it like falling. So this is a non-dimmable 15-watt LED bulb. And it's like a daylight bulb. I think the light on this is like 5000 K, I think. It's a great light. I use this whenever I'm filming or whenever I'm like working on something. So if you don't want to spend a crap ton of money on a super high-tech fluorescent lamp thing that they have on sale, I would definitely look at this and probably purchase a couple of them, put them in your craft lights, and then you don't have to buy a whole fancy lamp. You can just buy a bulb. I feel like I've said this several times in this video, but this is probably something super silly too, but I really like this. It's a spray bottle. It's not anything special. I got this from Daiso when I was back in Dallas. So I like using this because I'm a bit lazy and I don't really like putting, you know, the water into my steamer so that I can, you know, steam projects as I'm working on them. As I've mentioned before, it's extremely important to iron as you sew or as you work. I really like steaming because it irons way better and it just looks more crisp, but I'm just so lazy. I just don't want to put the water in my steamer, wait for the thing to steam, and then finally get to work. So I kind of cheat and I just use my regular iron setting on my iron, and then I fill this up with some water, and then I just spray whatever I'm working on with some water, and then I'll just go over my project, and that is pretty much how I BS steam. So if you want to take up this little cheat, I feel so terrible. I feel like people are gonna be like, they're doing low quality. So if you want to be lazy like me, you can pick up a little spray bottle and then just have it like right next to your iron so that you can use it to steam iron without steam ironing. So next on my list is this wonderful box. And it's just a box that has all of my essential things that I would need. A seam gauge, my needles, some fray ease, any replacement needles for my machine. There's also a little screwdriver in here, a seam ripper, some pins, oh, my little scissors for cutting some thread, and a lighter because that candle life. We're getting into fall, right? Everybody's gonna start having like, you know, pumpkin spice candles and whatever. I have a chai tea latte candle. I love it. I really wanna get it again, but I have no idea where I bought that thing. I set my hair on fire with that, and I also burnt one of my shirts. So I probably shouldn't have any candles in my studio working room, but I mean, come on. I also have this little chart right here, and it's just a little chart that gives me all the information about different needles and the different weights and stuff like that. Speaking of needles, I wanted to share needles. That's my next thing I wanted to talk about. And I really, really like these, and not because of the brand or anything like that. These are universal needles, and they can go for pretty much any kind of machine, but if you look on here, they offer different sizes, so it's just a nice variation of your different size needles. Because I feel like maybe people know this. I didn't know this when I was, you know, getting into sewing, but you can't use the same needle for every project. So I have broken so many needles. One hit me like right here close to my eye. Freaked me out for months. I didn't want to touch a single sewing machine because I was so scared that like I was gonna, you know, shoot my eye out like that little kid from that, what is it, A Christmas Story? I don't know. I saw that for the first time last year. Yeah, last year was the first time I had ever seen that movie, which was weird. I feel like I was missing out on like American tradition. I don't know. Oh my God, we're finally at the end of this list, and what I'm gonna share is probably gonna be super weird, but I wanted to share this. I know, it looks really weird. It's very useful. This actually does the same thing that a scene gauge does, but it just doesn't have a little gauge on it. I think I mentioned scene gauges like, well, besides on like almost every video, but particularly my supplies video, if you remember that. It's the like a stick ruler thing.
If anybody can tell me what this is, I would really appreciate it. But I really like using this for my sewing projects because it has standardized measurements all around on the edge, and it also has measurements on the inside. So it makes like measuring seams really, really easy. And I can go back and like check my work. I can also measure out buttons, buttonholes, anything like that, or even measure out like, you know, like a gap or any kind of design elements in a garment. So whatever this is actually supposed to be used for, it also really is just a really good measuring tool.
If I'm ever like traveling and, you know, I need to sew something while I'm not in my little safe sewing studio, it's really convenient to pack this up versus trying to pack a stick. So I really like this. Anyway, my dad gave me this and I was like, man, I don't think I'm ever gonna use this. And now it's like one of my favorite things in the world to use. So thanks, Daddy. You know, if you want to add some of these pieces to your supplies, like it would really help you out. But anyways, hopefully this helps. I'm here if you need any kind of guidance or advice or anything. I'll be here in my sewing room because I'm getting ready for this fashion show. So I'm going to be updating a bunch of stuff. So I'm actually using the collection that's already there. I believe it's called Are You Awake or Awake? I don't remember. I'm sorry, my brain sucks. But I'm going to be using that same story or collection. And Mia, I'm in the middle of a video. Mia, no, Mija, I'm in a video. We talked about this. Oh, God. You want me to scoot over? So my life has been me sitting, minding my own business, and then this thing yells at me because she's ready to sit down with me. So that means that I have to move, make myself uncomfortable. That way she can sit next to me. All right, I don't know if you can hear the purrs. The purrs are so real right now. Oh, God.